Hey, I'm here representing the organizational sustainability team. We are looking at the current state analysis for this problem. I'd just like to go over why we chose this topic. All of us really feel that organizations play a central role in sustainability for both good and bad reasons, and we think that they have a lot of responsibility as far as affecting all three pillars of sustainability, not just the environment, but the economy and the social aspect of it. So yeah, here's our presentation.
So we'll start off with the definition of organizational sustainability, which is going to be how a corporation, government, or a state actor or a business is going to implement sustainability into its practices. Another way to look at this is how one of those, a state, a business, or a corporation, is going to reduce their carbon footprint. So to kind of put that carbon footprint data point into perspective, since 1988, we've seen 833 gigatons of carbon dioxide emitted into the atmosphere. And then you compare that to only the 820 gigatons that were released from the birth of the Industrial Revolution to 1988. So in the past few decades, corporations and businesses have emitted more carbon dioxide than they did in the couple centuries since the Industrial Revolution. And companies were aware of this environmental impact, and they have continued to expand their fossil fuel extraction while also investing very little in renewable energy resources. So, kind of the origin that we're looking at for this problem was in the 80s. A few books were written, and then a few different ideas were made available, such as Earth Justice, which was the idea to give Earth the same legal rights as people, which brought this environmental issue to the forefront of the public's knowledge. And then we also had the IPCC that was created in 1988, which was the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. And this is why a lot of our data points start in 1988, because this was an organization that was tracking, from a scientific perspective, the environmental, social, and political effects of a lot of these carbon footprints and effects caused by business fossil fuel extraction. So population growth is going to be one of the biggest reasons for a lot of the environmental impact caused by a lot of these organizations, because the more the population grows, the higher the demand is for primary energy. And obviously, in order to meet this, companies are going to continue to extract fossil fuels. So in order to kind of bridge this gap between the supply and demand, a lot of this has to be met by renewable resources such as solar energy, wind energy, hydroelectric energy, nuclear energy, to kind of curb that impact of a lot of the fossil fuel extraction. In 2015, the Science Based Target Initiative was created, and this was in order to set a 2 degrees Celsius global average temperature increase limit, to kind of help guide a lot of these organizations in their sustainable efforts. A study was then done that found that within the existing fossil fuel reserves, those reserves already contain a locked-in emissions that are over that 2 degrees Celsius limit. So something's got to be done to stop these organizations from extracting fossil fuels, because even if they can extract the fossil fuels until they're gone, we're still going to hit above that global average temperature limit that was set. And so, along with this, you find the term that's going to get thrown around a lot called a high cost of inaction. So essentially, this problem isn't going away anytime soon. So if we don't start acting soon, it's only going to get worse, and we're going to start running out of time to act. So to kind of put that idea into a bigger perspective for you, if fossil fuel extraction were to continue for the next 28 years, as it did for the previous 28 years, global temperatures would rise 4 degrees Celsius by the end of the century, and this could lead to species extinction, food scarcity, and a lot of other global tipping points that we're trying to avoid by cutting down on a lot of these organizational fossil fuel extraction and carbon footprint issues.
In this slide, we have 5 stakeholders whose decisions have a great impact on other stakeholders and can also be affected by other stakeholder decisions. These 5 stakeholders, investors, employee workers, consumers, government, and business, all have values, beliefs, and norms. Values are the principles and standards which drive their decisions. Beliefs are a sense of how the world operates, and norms are social ideas of what the right and wrongs are about the stakeholder decisions. An example, investors. The values of an investor is to make a profit by investing money in companies with the most potential. Their beliefs are that companies should do whatever is necessary to make a return investment as well as a profit. The norms are that investors tend to have a say on company decisions. These values, beliefs, and norms affect the decisions stakeholders make and positively and negatively affect other stakeholders. These impacts can either be long-term or short-term and can take a stance on either social, environmental, or economic. These actions can also be controlled by regulations and rules, the technology available, and also the resources available during these actions. These effects can also be at a local or global scale.
So stakeholders are oftentimes referred to as actors, and we want to look at some of the primary actions from those stakeholders that have led to the problem. Actions can be anything from physical actions to decisions that are being made. Organizations tend to exploit resources for maintaining short-term financial gain. That's kind of the rejection phase that some businesses find themselves in, where they're fighting against the sustainability initiatives. A lot of these are, I like to call them environmental freeloaders. Other times there's just a general lack of awareness or sort of blissful ignorance. They tend to not really respond to the sustainability initiatives and just keep going and doing business as usual. And then as far as consumers go, they're another stakeholder. They tend to generally overconsume, which tends to lead to more unsustainable business practices. So what impacts these actions? Currently, there's a lack of energy efficient technology in unsustainable businesses. The current waste stream is very linear, and social media tends to promote this overconsumption problem that we've been having. So those are the technologies that impact the actions. And as far as resources go, obviously natural resources play a big role in sustainability funding. So, does this organization have the money to implement these sustainability practices? Lack of knowledge plays a major role. And then as far as policies go, there's that constant battle between big business and government. There's regional differences, as well as how companies' values impact their policies.
The impact of the action organizations exploit resources for maintaining short-term financial gain. It impacts the environment in a negative way because organizations are using too many resources before they are naturally reproduced. So in the long run, organizations will not have these resources, so eventually they will be depleted. There are some examples of this, such as the Wood Group, PSN Incorporation, in 2017 was caught irresponsibly discharging all oil into the Gulf of Mexico. And over time, this affects the local fisheries, and that causes a decline in fishing, which affects our the human economies. and it affects the ecosystems there because some fish will die off, which others need to eat, or they won't be eating something that will overgrow, and it will make the whole ecological system have to change how it exists. There's another example with the Berkshire Power Company, and they violated the Clean Air Act, and they tampered with air pollution monitoring equipment to avoid revenue loss. And so basically, this means that they were using too much of the resources to create power, and so their overusage uses more coal, and which uses a non-renewable resource, which over time is also going to go away. So, and it increases the pollution in the air because they have to burn it to create electricity. Impacts of organizations practicing business as usual affects the environment in a negative way. Business as usual wastes more resources because they are just trying to use as many as possible to make the most amount of money. And over time, they're probably going to dump their waste of these resources in a very unhealthy way. This is seen an example in coastal waters and marine pollution. When a business dumps their waste in the ocean, ecosystems are affected because they could fish are going to eat that waste, or like certain other species are going to not be able to grow as well, which over time will affect that ecosystem. And let's say you're a fisherman and the fish are not producing as much as you need to catch them, your revenue is going to go down, which hurts the local economy there. And there's also other human system effects, such as like organizations are wanting to be more sustainable by consumers now, and if you're not, you're going to lose business at this point. The impacts of customers over-consuming or not voting with their wallet affects human systems in a positive way. It is easier to get these cheaply made resources and more convenient for us to go to like a Walmart and get these cheap made items, usually made from plastic. This affects the environment in a negative way. The transportation cost to get these items to a store takes gasoline, which takes oil, a non-renewable resource, and it pollutes the air through carbon emissions. And over time, these cheap goods will break very fast, and we will have to go buy another one, wasting more resources. An example I did not include on this slide is grocery shopping. When we go to Walmart, we are getting food that's most likely not locally grown, not organic, and it's from a different country, so we're having to fly it in, or it's from a different part of America, we have to fly in super far. If we go to somewhere like Sprouts, it's locally grown, organic, it has safer farming practices, which is better for the earth, but it's more expensive. So we are most likely going to go to Walmart to buy these food instead of supporting a sustainable organization like Sprouts.
This slide shows some of our direct and indirect drivers that we analyzed when looking at the problem of the unsustainability of organizations. I won't read them all off to you, especially the indirect drivers, but for the direct drivers, we have overexploitation, high prices associated with sustainability, value disparities, and poor waste disposal systems. So these are all things that directly impact the unsustainability of organizations. Thanks for sticking with us through this presentation. We hope that you'll check back in with us when we go over our future state analysis. Thank you so much.